Before I close, I want to warn the American people who are watching at home. You may hear lies and smears in this hearing that'll challenge my loyalty to and my love for our country. Those who oppose my nomination imply that I am loyal to something or someone other than God, my own conscience, and the Constitution of the United States.
The CIA has issued a new assessment that it's more likely that COVID-19 emerged from a lab rather than nature. For years, the agency said it could not conclude whether COVID-19 was man-made or nature-made. Now the agency says it believes the virus emerged from a research lab in China, but says it has low confidence in that assessment.
Tulsi Gabbard has Congress panicking as she exposes them for their hypocrisy and their lies. The CIA backtracks on its initial assessment of where COVID-19 came from, and the White House confirms that President Trump was right when he talked about this virus years ago, which begs the question, what does it mean for Dr. Anthony Fauci, who may have funded this alleged research? Appreciate you guys hitting the like button. Thank you so much for sharing this video. You guys are absolutely amazing. We have a lot to go through today, so let's go ahead and get things started with Tulsi Gabbard and her confirmation hearing.
Those who oppose my nomination imply that I am loyal to something or someone other than God, my own conscience, and the Constitution of the United States, accusing me of being Trump's puppet, Putin's puppet, Assad's puppet, a guru's puppet, Modi's puppet, not recognizing the absurdity of simultaneously being the puppet of 5 different puppet masters. The same tactic was used against President Trump and failed. The American people elected President Trump with a decisive victory and mandate for change. The fact is, what truly unsettles my political opponents is I refuse to be their puppet. I have no love for Assad or Gaddafi or any dictator. I just hate al-Qaeda. I hate that we have leaders who cozy up to Islamist extremists, minimizing them to so-called rebels. As Jake Sullivan said to Hillary Clinton, quote, al-Qaeda is on our side in Syria.
Now, one thing that's very clear with Tulsi's hearing is that many of these people decided on their vote well before they heard her speak. And we're going to get to these people in time. But I want you guys to hear what Senator Tom Cotton said about Tulsi Gabbard and how Democrats have attacked her time and time again.
Before I address the important work ahead at the DNI, please also let me make 2 observations about some of the accusations about Ms. Gabbard. First, I'm dismayed by the attacks on Ms. Gabbard's patriotism and her loyalty to our country. For instance, Hillary Clinton has smeared Ms. Gabbard, calling her an asset of a foreign nation. Let me remind everyone that Ms. Gabbard has served in our Army for more than 2 decades. She has multiple combat tours, and she still wears the uniform to this day. She has undergone 5 FBI background checks. I spent more than 2 hours last week reviewing the latest, putting eyes on more than 300 pages. It's clean as a whistle. It's fine that we have differences of opinions on policies and programs. I suspect some of my Republican colleagues might disagree with some of Mrs. Gabbard's votes in the House of Representatives. Just as I suspect that some of my Democratic colleagues might criticize Ms. Gabbard's statements and actions since she saw the light and left the Democratic Party. But I sincerely hope that no one today will impugn Ms. Gabbard's patriotism and integrity. Second, I can only laugh at some critics who say that Ms. Gabbard has unconventional views. No doubt she has some unconventional views, like her criticism of Barack Obama's regime change interventions in Egypt and Libya. But guess what? I opposed the disastrous interventions in Egypt and Libya as well. Mubarak was a longtime American partner, and Egypt was a linchpin of our security system in the Middle East. Gaddafi had been scared straight after we toppled the Taliban and Saddam Hussein. He turned over his weapons of mass destruction and cooperated against terrorists. In return, we had lifted sanctions and reestablished diplomatic ties. But President Obama intervened to topple both regimes. And what came next? The Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt and dangerous chaos in Libya.
Cotton is setting the tone here, guys, because the expectation is that Tulsi Gabbard will be questioned about her loyalty to this country. The attacks on her have been very similar, that she's an asset for foreign nations, Russia being at the top of their list. But as you guys have heard, she's served and continues to serve in our army as a reserve. And while she has different opinions compared to many Democrats, she is well within her rights to have her own take regarding these topics. But one topic that was focused on more than others, the topic was about Edward Snowden. Many Americans believe that what Edward Snowden did was right, because none of us enjoyed the fact that we were being spied on by our own government.
You even called Edward Snowden, and I quote here, a brave whistleblower. Every member of this committee supports the rights of legal whistleblowers. But Edward Snowden isn't a whistleblower. And in this case, I'm a lot closer to the chairman's words, where he said Snowden is, quote, an egotistical serial liar and traitor who, quote, deserves to rot in jail for the rest of his life. Ms. Gabbard, a simple yes or no question. Do you still think Edward Snowden is brave?
Mr. Vice Chairman, Edward Snowden broke the law. I do not agree with or support with all of the information and intelligence that he released, nor the way in which he did it. There would have been opportunities for him to come to you on this committee or seek out the IG to release that information. The fact is, he also, even as he broke the law, released information that exposed egregious, illegal, and unconstitutional programs that are happening within our government that led to serious reforms that Congress undertook.
Chairman, we got 5 minutes.
Notice the hint of anxiety in Senator Mark Warner's voice there, because while Tulsi Gabbard confirmed that Edward Snowden broke the law, she also said that he exposed the federal government for their wrongdoing. Because if he revealed this information to Congress back then, he'd just be thrown in jail. And none of us would ever know the realities of the surveillance that many of us were put under. Now, we can argue that what Edward Snowden did is against what our intelligence agencies are about. But if it weren't for him, then none of us would have even been the wiser. Him exposing the government led to necessary changes. And this is exactly what Tulsi Gabbard said. But it's pretty clear that they wanted to pin Edward Snowden's actions as they highlight for her confirmation hearing. In fact, multiple senators from Democratic parties pushed for this topic more than others. And I want to go ahead and read a tweet from Snowden here, one that was posted back in 2020. So it reads, "When a crooked politician calls me a traitor, ask yourself, who did I betray? The courts have ruled repeatedly that the programs I revealed were unlawful and likely unconstitutional, a violation of your rights. If this is treason, then what they call loyalty is a crime." Wow, that's deep, isn't it? That is deep, guys. And I want to show you guys just how badly these Democrats melted down when they couldn't manipulate Tulsi Gabbard. So here's Senator Michael Burnett absolutely losing his mind in front of everybody.
Was Edward Snowden a traitor to the United States of America?
Senator, I will also repeat my answer. He broke the law.
You said earlier that you were offended by a question that my colleague from Kansas asked, which I think was his duty as somebody on this committee to fulfill his responsibility to advise and consent. We are not here to be a rubber stamp for the President of the United States. So let me ask you again, do you believe, as the chairman of this committee believes, as the vast majority of members of our intelligence agencies believe, that Edward Snowden was a traitor to the United States of America?
Senator, if confirmed as Director of National Intelligence, I will work with you to make sure that there is not another Snowden-like leak.
Media. It's not a moment to propagate theories, conspiracy theories, or attacks on journalism in the United States. This is when you need to answer the questions of the people whose votes you're asking for to be confirmed as the chief intelligence officer of this nation. As my colleague said, this is not about you. It's about the people that serve the intelligence agencies of the United States. Is Edward Snowden a traitor to the United States of America? That is not a hard question to answer when the stakes are this high.
Senator, as someone who has served in
yes or no, is Edward Snowden a traitor to the United States of America?
As someone who has
I'll go on
worn
to
our
my
uniform
questions.
in combat, I understand how critical our national security
Apparently
is.
you don't.
Remember that almost the entire nation pushed back on the atrocities that were exposed by Edward Snowden. And while Tulsi Gabbard agrees that he broke the law, he didn't necessarily piss off the citizens of this country either. But if they want to talk about traitors, why not discuss the research that Dr. Anthony Fauci funded in Wuhan, China? Because the CIA has backtracked on their previous statements when it comes to COVID-19, saying that it's likely that this thing did come from a lab in China.
In recent days, the CIA actually revealed that they do also believe that COVID-19 was from a lab leak in Wuhan, China. How is the president planning on responding to this additional intel from the CIA, and will it impact how he responds to them with tariffs?
Yeah, kudos to John Ratcliffe for revealing that truth and that fact to the American people. Many years too late, the Biden administration had a chance to let the American people know the truth about that, and for some reason, they chose not to. I also would just like to point out that several years ago, when I was working in this press shop and President Trump would take to this podium to brief the American people on COVID-19, he suggested that COVID very well may have came from a lab in Wuhan, China. And many members in this very room mocked him for that, said he was spewing conspiracy theories. He was not. We now know that to be the confirmable truth. It took many years for it to come out, but the president was right in this instance again.
And again, President Trump is vindicated years after the fact, which kind of reminds me of a previous live stream that I did recently, one wherein the president questions what actually happened as a Black Hawk helicopter hit a plane head on. Make sure you guys check that one out because he's saying that this could have been avoided. Now, as always, guys, appreciate y'all hitting the like button. Thank you so much for subscribing. We'll see you next time.